What up traders, what up investors? We have a fantastic video today. We're going to be actually looking at the fantastic Charlie from the ZipTrader. We have his channel over here. I'm going to link it in the description. We're going to actually be doing his particular chart setup that he uses, that you see a lot on his videos. It's very simple, it's very straight to the point, and he uses it on a number of different time and time frames. So let's go ahead and start looking at it. So what he uses, we can go here and look at we're going to go here to the little thing here. So he uses the simple moving average. That being said, the simple moving average is a little bit different than the exponential moving average that I use, but he uses the 9 on the close and the 180 on the close as well. Then he has the generic RSI and then the standard MACD. And those are basically his go-to setup. And the other thing too is I think he believes he doesn't do the overlapping volume, so he has the volume down here as well. So that being said, this is his go-to setup that I see him in his videos quite often. And this is not too extremely much different. It's much more simplistic, and it works for him. So that being said, let's look at some awesome tickers here. So we can look at Apple. So what he normally looks for, I believe from the understanding of looking at some of his recent videos and been watching him for a couple months, does fantastic technical analysis, got a great wit to his videos, really enjoy watching it. So it's basically a lot like how we do with the 21 and the 8 exponential moving average of how it crosses. Again, we're looking at Apple here, and the reason you see these little gray lines in the back, that's due to the extended hours that you see in his a lot. So we're looking at the 4-hour, 180-day chart. That's some of the larger time frames that he looks at. You can see up here we're having a huge top here in Apple with the 9 simple moving average coming through here, trying to bounce off a couple times here at the 180 simple moving average and then breaking through it. At the same time, you get an RSI reading of basically he used the 70-30. So what that means is it's at the 30 percentile first line and then 70 at the top. So that's slightly different than what we use. Is we use the 80-20. It kind of just gives a little bit less false readings in the sense, because RSI can be triggered on just very strong, steep down moves with volume. You can see that multiple times here. Then you can see the MACD, which is the teal line we're going to look at, is below the white line. That's also printing more negative downside. But once you see a switch, particularly with Apple, it moves quite rapidly. You can see that the MACD crossed over the white line, but the teal simple moving average, the 9, hasn't crossed over through the 180 yet. So that was a sign of a potential continuously heading lower until it's able to get back through the 180 move average here, particularly to print higher. And that we kind of see that here. Another stock we can look at is at Tesla, to kind of look at this particular analysis. So he does this, he actually looks at minute charts too, which is something I don't really do very well, because I don't have the patience to look at something, or the fortitude, lack of a better word, to be able to look at something like that. So this is very analysis here. Again, back to the 4-hour chart, we see here Tesla coming through. The 9 kind of breaks through the 180, kind of bounces back, does like a 50% retracement, like a fib probably from here. I bet you this is probably around the 50% retracement. Yeah, 50% retracement. Then from that point, sells off, breaking again once through the 180 with the combination of the MACD blue teal line below the white, and then RSI signaling over sold and potentially heading lower. So the way he's using this indicator and the way I would use it is oversold doesn't mean it's time to buy. It just means there can be potentially more downside to come, because it's just showing the amount of strength or the relative strength within the stock on its amount of piercing through some price averages and levels. So if it starts piercing through this, it doesn't particular mean, it's a bottom, particular on a very short-term chart. So if you looked at this at a higher time frame chart at like a daily, it's going to give you a little bit more accurate particular, I'm doing air quotes right now, bottom in place. But here I like to use the daily chart as reference. You can see here the 180 simple moving average kind of came in as support here, and then you kind of see a nice little print higher with really good strength printing in with the MACD as well. So this is really good analysis. I really do like the way the chart's set up to see how he does things. I like to be working with this just a little bit to kind of give it like maybe like a third tier glance at stocks, and just kind of run through and see if I can find any great patterns, anything that I could see that pops out at me that's compared to what I currently have. Looking at a lot of different stocks. So another stock we can look at is at Disney. So this one is really interesting too because it's been kind of beaten up, and this one being below the 180, not like the last two we looked at. So that being said, you can kind of see here just kind of trading last year, kind of trading sideways, hitting the 180, held it quite beautifully, not getting any signs of any kind of trauma or tragic anything happen. The RSI is just kind of actually printing in the middle of the lane. Then you have the MACD kind of just going in around, kind of twirling around like spaghetti, and then you get a potential pop on earnings. Again, that's going to make the 9, of course, move up, and the 180 is going to slowly take off, slowly go behind it. But once the end of the year happens, some issues with Bob Iger leaving, and of course with the pandemic, you see, some turmoil kind of kick in here. The 9 never crossed through the 20 or the 180 here, but then you see it cross here, signaling potential further downside retracement. That's alongside with the first sign of the RSI printing teal, and with the blue teal line on the MACD crossing through the white for potential more down print. Then you get the crossover basically here of the MACD with the teal line over the white. You kind of have this oversold oversold symbol down here, kind of stopping, and now it's kind of just hugging in and around the 8 simple moving average, trying to climb higher, potentially looking to see some strength or some resistance at around the 125, 127 level once it hits the 180 potentially, and see how it plays off that. They'll maybe let the 9 simple moving average kind of catch up to see what happens there. Again, we're getting really close to the top range of the RSI, giving it the strength and the momentum it needs to kind of pop through that as well. Another chart we can look at is recently, drink some water here, Facebook. So Facebook has been completely on fire here, doing to up 6% just today, and we're going to look at NVDA next, I promise. So that being said, we can go look at basically just a 4-hour chart here. Crazy movement here. He also likes to go down to the hourly chart and even further than that, so you can kind of just see the potential movement here. So just again, this is the 1-hour chart on 20 days, so this is 20 days, and each little tick here is 1 hour. So that being said, we kind of get some Wednesday of last week, some selling off due to the overall market, kind of breaking through the 180 level here on the simple moving average. Kind of breaking through it, not going too steep because the RSI down here has not printed extreme readings for potential more downside. But the thing is too, kind of holds it in strength is the MACD, because the teal line is actually above the white and trying to print higher, meaning there's some strength down here. So this could be just a head fake, and this 180 could come in for really strong support to try to break out of this. You see it fail here once, but once it tries to fail once, it has to try again, and that second try gets a nice little pop, and then ever since then has just been riding up the 9 simple moving average to where we are today at around like 230 level. So that is wonderful looking at that, and then I did promise you, what did I promise you? What did I promise you? And oh yeah, NVIDIA, my bad, brain fart. This is a super important earnings coming out tomorrow after the close, so be super mindful on trading this and trying to get into anything, because again, we don't know how earnings are going to come out. It could be fantastic earnings, but management could say something negative. No, we have no crystal ball here, and earnings are a complete coin flip at a time, so be super mindful of that. I know that you probably saw the Wall Street Bets guy putting in 170K on long calls on NVIDIA, and we're going to definitely do an update video once the earnings come out and to kind of see on how that is played out. So, give you some little play-by-play here for NVIDIA. Basically here on the hourly chart, been really strong, been printing very high on the overbought, but just continue printing higher. Kind of be trading sideways the last 2 or 3 days due to the fact of most likely just waiting, sitting on their hands waiting for earnings. Popping this out to the 4-hour chart here, it gets a little bit more detail on how strong this company has been performing, the stock in particular. The slightly thing is concerning here, again, earnings is coming out, so there's going to be a huge headwind on potentially what can happen here, but you kind of get the teal MACD line kind of crossing over, potentially could be signaling downside, and the RSI is kind of just flirting with the overbought potentially reading. That's when it kind of prints that red line here above when it hits above 70, the strength level, but we'll see on how that all plays out. Again, it could be a fantastic quarter, but guidance could be terrible, or they don't give you guidance, or the CEO can say something. We talked about wormholes last time. He could be talking about whatever reasons that they're switching to make a fruit juice. I don't know. NVIDIA green fruit juice. Just never know. Just be very mindful. It's hard to trade in and around earnings. It's just too easy to trade into earnings and then get out and then trade after earnings and to play it by that. Let me give you one more. We can kind of look at Goldman Sachs here. This is one kind of been beaten up due to the fact of Warren Buffett coming out, getting rid of his stakes in a lot of banks, and just giving the negative press on that. So that being said, we can kind of look here using Charlie's setup charts here, hitting a high of 250 basically. Again, this is on a 4-hour chart, the beginning of the year basically, and then ever since then kind of been crossing through here the level at 180. Simple moving average just come crashing down to the 130 level. Kind of get a double bottom here. Kind of starts printing higher. The RSI hasn't signaled overbought yet, so any strength to try to potential breakout is not there yet. The MACD does cross back over, signaling potentially downturn or 50% retracement of the previous move. Kind of does that, and then you see it not hit the RSI again for more downside potential, and then seeing it kind of rocket higher with the overall market breaking through the 180 again, and then now just kind of trading sideways, and that's pretty well represented on the RSI, having strength one day, having negative one day, having strength one day, because it's whatever hedge fund and manager is out there on CNBC saying whatever about things. Looking at this at a smaller time frame, basically here on the hourly chart, you can kind of see this much more zoomed in on trading range of between like 192 to 165. That's quite a range here for Goldman Sachs trading this range. Currently, it's above the 180 here. It looks like it's trying to roll back over potentially. RSI is kind of printing lower. It can stay in the middle ground for sure. But that being said, this could be seeing for potential support here at 178 if it comes back to this level for a quick trade. If not, the RSI prints teal, and if the MACD is below the white line as well, could be potentially breaking through the 180 level here for a trade. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about here. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like these content, like breaking down other YouTubers or other chartist charts and kind of doing what they analyze and what they see in the charts, it's kind of the same way of just how they see charts. It's kind of the same way of just how they see the stocks and the price action happen before them. Again, Charlie Wonderful dude. Definitely check out his channel, the ZipTrader. I'll put that in the comments, the description down below. Again, this is Ken from the Dyslexic Investor, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.